Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahangsa Prabhadakasharya Asadhara Satushi Shriman. His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Harival Slava Sabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Garangi. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane. Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Satarne. Om Agana Tvinandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Prijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagapate Ksha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshina Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Dhruvyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patiranam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, The Appearance of Sri Narada, text number 19. Chatur hotram karma shudam prajanam vrikshya vaidikam Yadadad yagya santatyai Veda eka chaturvidam Chatur hotram karma shudam Prajanam viksha vaidikam Vyadadad yagya santatyai Vedam ekam chaturvidam Chaturhotram karma shudam Prajanam viksha vaidikam Vyadadad yagya santatyai Vedam ekam chaturvidam Mataji. Chaturhotram karma shudam Prajanam viksha vaidikam Vyadad yagya santatyai Veda ekam chaturvidam Chatu 4 Hotram sacrificial fires Karma shudam purification work Prajanam of the people in general Viksha after seeing Vaidikam according to the Vedic rites Yadadat made into Yagya sacrifice Santatyai to expand Veda ekam only one Veda Chatuvidam in 4 divisions. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which the people's occupations could be purified. And to simplify the process, he divided the one Veda into 4 in order to expand them among men. Please repeat. He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which. Let's try that again. Were means by which the people's occupations could be purified. And to simplify the process, he divided the Veda into 4 in order to expand them among men. Purport. Formerly there was only one Veda of the name Yajura, and the 4 divisions of sacrifice were there specifically mentioned. But to make them more easily performable, the Veda was divided into 4 divisions of sacrifice, just to purify the occupational service of the 4 orders. Above the 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Yajura, Sama, and Artharva, there are the Puranas, the Mahabharata, Samhitas, etc., which are known as the 5th Veda. Sri Vyasadeva and his many disciples were all historical personalities, and they were very kind and sympathetic towards the fallen souls of this age of Kali. As such, the Puranas and the Mahabharata were made from related historical facts which explain the teachings of the 4 Vedas. There is no point in doubting the authority of the Puranas and Mahabharata except as part and parcels of the Vedas. In the Chandogya Upanishad, the Puranas and the Mahabharata are generally known as histories, are mentioned as the 5th Veda. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, that is the way of ascertaining the respective values of the revealed scriptures. Chaturhotram karma shudam prajanam viksha vaidikam vyadadai yagya santatyai veda eka chaturavidam. He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which people's occupations could be purified. And to simplify the process, he divided the 1 Veda into 4 in order to expand them among men. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatim Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyade Satarane. Yagya Vai Vishnu Jagnatat Kamanonyatra Lokayam Karma Bandhanai Taratam Apikantiya Mukta Sangha Samashra. That work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Perform prescribed duties for his satisfaction, O son of Kunti. In this way, he'll always remain unattached and free from bondage. It's assumed that everyone has some kind of prescribed duty. There are actual prescribed duties that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. Chatura vanyamaya shristam guna karma vibhagashaha tasya kartram apimam vidya kartram avyam. According to the 3 divisions, the 4 divisions of human society, Chatura Vanyam, there are 4 divisions, varnas, which is occupational duties. Chatura Vanyamaya Shristam, created by me, Shristam, to create. Chatura Vanyamaya Shristam, Maya by me, Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. So, everyone, according to Krishna, has a material body in this material world made out of the 3 modes of material nature. Sattvam, Rajas, Tamayiti, Guna Prakriti, Sambhava, Nivandanti Mahavaho, Dehe, Dehinam, Avyam. That the material nature consists of 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And when the living entity comes in contact with these 3 modes, he becomes conditioned by them. So we're conditioned by these 3 modes, and according to our conditioning, we naturally should have a certain occupation, either a Brahmin, or a Kshatriya, or a Vaishya, or a Shudra. But, as we know, Kalo Sudra Sambhava. In this age, everyone is born as a Shudra. And by modern education, according to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one gradually becomes less than an animal. Education is supposed to perfect our particular prescribed duty, so gradually advance toward the next higher stage. Naturally, by doing our duty. Therefore, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from an astrologer who he was in his last lifetime, who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in his last lifetime, the astrologer, who's a very good astrologer, started to meditate. And there he saw, as we see here in this picture here, a big fish in an ocean. And he was pulling this boat full of sages. Then he saw a big tortoise in an ocean of milk with a big golden mountain on its back, which the asuras and the devas were churning to get nectar. Then he saw a boar holding the Bhumandala in its tusks, and he started to think, well, this is a very bad day. I don't think this person was an animal in his last lifetime. So he said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sorry, I'm having a very bad day. Maybe you can come back tomorrow, I'll be in better consciousness. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, just try again. So then he saw this half man, half lion ripping apart this giant demon. Then he saw a green man, a big man with big foot crossed in the universe. Then he saw a green man with his friends holding bows and arrows. And finally he saw a black man. And he thought, oh, I know who you are. He said, who do you think I am? He said, I think you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, I actually know who I was in my last lifetime. In my last lifetime, I was a cowherd boy, and I took care of the cows very nicely every day. So in this lifetime, I've become a Brahmin. So who's taking care of cows? Who is even a good Shudra nowadays? Therefore, people who don't know, they have no valid prescribed duty according to civilized society. Therefore, everyone is destined to the darkest regions of existence, except for the fact that the sacrifice in this age, in other words, Shudras, Brahmins, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, they're all meant for one thing, Yagya Vai Vishnu. The Vaishyas, they're growing food and protecting the cow, because the cow gives milk, which can be made into butter, which can be used for sacrifice. And at the same time, everyone involved in the sacrifice has to eat remnants of the sacrifice in order to be able to perform the sacrifice, prasad. Therefore, the Vaishyas, they provide the energy by which the sacrifice goes on. And the Kshatriyas provide the arrangements by which the sacrifice could be made under the direction of the Brahmins, who perform the sacrifice for Vishnu, and therefore all desirable things come. Devam bhava yatha dena, te deva bhaviyantu va, parashparam bhaviyantak, shayak param avapsita. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods provide all necessities to man. But he who takes these things without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. Ishtan bhogan hivo deva, te deva bhavayantu va, parashparam bhavayantak, shek param avapsita. Devam bhavayata dena, te deva bhavayantu va. The demigods are in charge of sacrifice. Being pleased by sacrifices will also please you. This, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. Because Jagavai Vishnu means the demigods are Krishna's representatives, so sacrificing to the demigods by the yagya performance is actually sacrificing to Vishnu, because the mantras are all beginning with Om, directing, which are a way of addressing the Supreme Lord. The demigods may apparently provide whatever the jug is meant for, but actually the person providing it is Krishna through the demigods. The demigods by themselves can't do anything, just like we can't do anything without being empowered by Krishna. So similarly, the demigods also can't do anything without being empowered by Krishna. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shradhayachitim ichchami tasya tasyatram shradam tam eva vididamiham. I'm in everyone's heart. I'm in the heart of the demigods. And therefore, I give the inspiration. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so he can devote himself to that particular deity. Sataya shradaya yuktas tasya radam ihate labate chatata kaman tayaiva vihitan hitan mayaiva vihitan hitan. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigods and attains his desires. But actually these benefits are bestowed by me alone. And here, interesting enough, aradhanam, which means to worship. So Radharani's name is there. Ultimately, without pleasing Radharani, no one gets anything. She's the source of all worship of Krishna, and without worshiping Krishna, one, in some way or another, one doesn't get anything. Krishna is the source of everything. So, the Varnashram Dharma system, Varna is men, so that the sacrifice goes on, and everyone has to participate. Unless there is assistance, if everyone's a chief, there's no assistance, then nothing happens. Everyone just sits around and talks all the time, makes plans, but no one executes them. So you need assistance, you need the energy, you need the organizational power, and one needs the intelligence. So this is necessary for any endeavor, but to sacrifice for Vishnu is especially important. So in other ages, there is another type of sacrifice. Krite tadayato Vishnu. In Satya Yuga, people could sit down and meditate on Krishna. Now we sit down, we go to sleep. Is that right, Mukunda? Right, we don't exactly meditate. And Krite tadayatu, but so therefore sacrifice is not meditation in Kali Yuga. Dwarpayam, Tretayam Yajito Mukai. Sacrifice was recommended in Treta Yuga. So apparently this division of the Vedas into different means was really meant for Treta Yuga, where people could actually do sacrifices. Now, of course, we know that Treta was switched with Dwapara Yuga. So previously, people didn't have to perform sacrifice. They could simply either meditate upon Vishnu, and in the second age, they meditated on the deity. Just like Dhruva Maharaj had a deity, which helped him in his meditation. He built his own deity on the bank and meditated on it while he was chanting, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. And then in the third yuga, when people are not inclined to deity worship or in meditation, then sacrifice is there. More impersonal, but then Krishna, and the results would come. Krishna would sometimes appear from the fire of sacrifice. And therefore people became encouraged to perform sacrifice, because what they could get in Satya Yuga by meditation, and what they got in Dwapara Yuga by deity worship, they got by sacrifice in Treta Yuga. So in this age, we have no capacity to meditate for very long. Very rarely we have any capacity at all to meditate, except on the objects of the senses. But even that, people have no power nowadays. Therefore, when they have commercials on television, they only last for 10 seconds, because people can't meditate anything more than 10 seconds. If they can do that much, if they're not asleep during the commercial. And the action has to be the hero has to kill at least 20 people in the first 5 minutes, or else people get bored. This is a very slow film. He has to seduce at least 3 ladies, kill 10 people, and got shot 5 times in the first 10 minutes, or else the movie's not very interesting. It's kind of boring, slow and boring. Because people lost their attention power. It's been taken away by Maya because of their contemplation of the objects of the senses. Finally, their intelligence is taken away, known as Maya Pritigyana. They have no capacity to understand anything in reality, although they may be seemingly be big scholars, but actually they've lost their intelligence. And what to speak of ordinary people who never had any intelligence to begin with. So, in this age of Kali Yuga, sacrifices Yagya is chanting the holy names. And by such sacrifice, then let's say that the orders of the yugas are not changed, then we should get some attraction to deity worship. In other words, if we just chant Hare Krišna but we have no idea what the deity is like, then it's just some words. On the other hand, if we hear what the deity is like, that should be sufficient to create the deity within our minds, if we have a mind left after taking so many drugs and other things. Whether we have a mind or not, that's debatable. Or a capacity to put anything in our mind. So, although it's possible in this age, deity worship is not necessary, but for the most part, people's lives are so irregular, so disturbed, so difficult to think about anything consistently for any long period of time, that we can't be like the Brahmin who sat down in another age and visualized the deities within his mind and all the paraphernalia to worship them, and did that for many, many years. Therefore, a deity worship was introduced as essential in this age of Kali in order to help us chant the holy name and have some understanding of who we're chanting to. We can hear about him, but whether or not we can put him in our minds so that we can actually experience his presence, that's a different thing. So we can understand he's not just an ordinary personality. Therefore, deity worship is there to give us an opportunity to utilize our senses, our minds, and our intelligence in such a way as we can refine our service to the holy name also, by refining our service to the physical form of Krishna before us. Then we'll be inclined to sacrifice. Unless we gain experience, either through the chanting of the holy name, which manifests itself eventually as it's in Krishna's forms within our experience, within our minds, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's associates, Krishna's pastimes, they all become visible to one who's purified his mind through the chanting of the holy name. Or through the deity worship, then one would be inclined to sacrifice. For Vishnu, everyone is engaged in some kind of sacrifice, but generally, even the more advanced people, they're sacrificing for the demigods in order to get some material benefit. And the less intelligent people, they're sacrificing their energies just for some meager sense gratification. But everyone is utilizing the energies for some objective, either to please Krishna, or get benedictions from the demigods, or for the most people, simply to gratify their senses. So in this age, that if we chant Hare Krishna nicely, if we engage in deity worship properly, then we'll be inclined to sacrifice for Vishnu our energies, our wealth, our words, our life. Otherwise, one will not sacrifice. One may come for some time, chant Hare Krishna, even do some deity worship, but if the spirit of sacrifice is not arisen within one's heart, then one will not actually be able to prolong one's practice of Krishna consciousness, because Krishna will only reciprocate with the idea of sacrifice. Sacrifice for the holy name, sacrifice of the deities, or some kind of sacrifice in one's work for Krishna. Then one will be able to meditate on Krishna and eventually meditate in trance upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as they did in Satya Yuga. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva has divided the Vedas, because no one can understand the Vedas. Because previously people just were intelligent enough in Treta Yuga that they understood the purpose was to get back to meditation on Vishnu through a sacrifice. But in this age, people don't know sacrifice. For Vishnu, at least. They don't believe in Vishnu. They don't know who Vishnu is. They're mostly interested in sacrifices for sense gratification, and even the sacrifice of the demigods is quite ineffective in this age, especially as it goes along. There are no qualified priests to perform sacrifices to the demigods. Therefore, he divided the Vedas so that people could understand at least how to perform, those who were capable of performing sacrifice, what to do. Also, the Vedas contain other information which is useful, such as Ayurveda and the other astrology. There's Prashna and things like that. There's instructions in the Vedas which are useful even for common people. But even these Vedas, even astrology, was meant to determine, astronomy, was for not to find out how many children we're going to have, what the color eyes they're going to have. Astronomy, Gola, and astronomy, Jyotish, were meant for the proper timing of the sacrifices. And for giving people the proper varna and ashram. It wasn't meant for this frivolous modern society. But even the frivolous, even when people utilize astronomy and astrology and Yuddha Veda, fighting Veda, to fight the Shipa Veda, even when they utilize it for, still they develop, for a mundane thing, still they develop faith in the Vedas, which is essential for progress of human civilization. Shilpa Veda. But the Vedas were all meant, the Shilpa Veda was meant to how to construct the sacrificial arena. Not how to construct a nice house so we can live there peacefully like a rat. So the rats, they build nice holes in the beach, and then snakes come into the hole and eat the rat and live there very peaceful. Because the snakes can't build a house for themselves, so they rely on their fellow rat to build a house for them. And not only that, but they get food when they enter into the house. The rat. In any case, they were divided so that some use could be there, develop faith in the Vedas, And ultimately, Mahabharata was there because most people can't read the Vedas. They don't know Sanskrit. They can't figure out what is this for, what is this about. Although they've taken Jyotish out of it, they've taken Ayurveda out of it for their use. But then there's Mahabharata to explain the Vedas. That is, the Vedas are aimed at worshiping Krishna. And the Puranas, etc. So the people will read nice stories and eventually understand what the Vedas are actually meant for by seeing the devotees, how they worship Krishna in these stories. But for ourselves, we have the essence of the Vedas, the essence of Vedanta. That is Srimad Bhagavatam. The essence of the whole thing is to worship Krishna. And in this age, since we can't do it through the normal ways of, we're not very good at deity worship, we can't perform sacrifice with any effect, we can't chant the mantras. But we can worship Krishna to the best of our ability. And Krishna, he takes the essence of our chanting, our sincerity of our chanting, and he reciprocates accordingly, even if we can't pronounce anything properly. We don't even know what proper is. And even if we heard it, we wouldn't be able to hear it. Therefore, in this age, of course, whatever we can take out of the Vedas, utilize to propagate Krishna consciousness is nice, but the most important thing is to distribute the holy name and Srimad Bhagavatam along with the holy name, because that will give people the impetus to worship the deities, to worship Krishna, sacrifice for Krishna, and eventually always think of Krishna and never forget him. So thank you. Any questions or comments? So we shouldn't think of the Vedas as some kind of dull books with a lot of Sanskrit words in it, make no sense to us, impractical, building some fire pit, throwing things into it. No, it's all part of a continuum of becoming Krishna conscious. Here, if we did sacrifice in the right way, we'd have to throw our cars into it. But they had no cars. Besides that, the fumes from the cars, if we threw them into the sacrifice, wouldn't please Krishna, probably suffocate the people in the arena. Because we've created so many artificial things. But there, the people were living simply, and the ghee was the most valuable thing they had, more valuable than gold. Although they sometimes put gold and jewels into the fire too, but ghee was the most valuable thing. You can't, if you're starving to death, doesn't matter how much gold you have, it's not going to help you. You can't melt the gold and drink it. Although gold is actually quite healthy too, if you get in minute quantities and you boil it. Gold has a lot of prana. It's made out of solidified sun. Anything else? Any questions? So let us sacrifice for Vishnu today. Hvala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.